Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of Is This Real? Today, me and Aaron, hello, Aaron.
Hello.
Me and Aaron, we're on a Skype call. The rest of these are going to be in person, but so if the quality falters at all, we do apologize. But today, we're reviewing The Open House, which Aaron has many thoughts on that he wants to get into right away. So if you want to go ahead and take over for me.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about bad movies is our passion apparently, is that there's a few different ways a movie can be bad. Like there's like your like The Room, where it's just like everything was a terrible decision, but somehow it's still way more enjoyable to watch than like maybe some like quote unquote good movies. And then there's the ones that are like obviously like really bad, like student films. And those ones you kind of like feel bad for them. You feel like if they had more money, they might have been able to put together a better movie. And then there's ones like this where it's like, yeah, it was low budget, but they also have like the lead actor of 13 Reasons Why, but also like he doesn't know how to act, and it's oh man, it's just a mess.
It's
So maybe there's
so
only a
bad.
few.
And I couldn't tell if he was a bad actor or if he was just acting the part so well because the writing was pretty bad, where like, everything was pretty stereotypical about a horror movie, except
Oh
for the
yeah.
ending, which we'll get into. And also, for those of you that are like, The Room, they should do The Room. We definitely will be doing The Room at some point. It was
Oh
suggested
definitely.
by many people. Um, but I just don't know. Like the 13 Reasons Why guy, I never watched that show, and I've heard he's a decent actor, but in this one, I just couldn't stand his character at all.
Yeah, it was also just such a dumb script. I feel like nobody like they didn't have somebody like read it first, so they could be like, actually, phones without a SIM card can call emergency services. So that doesn't make any sense.
That
Like
is
no
a new
one like read
thing.
the script said that, right?
It
So, oh
starts
well, sorry. I
off,
guess I can't use my phone.
the movie starts off, and the main character, the 13 Reasons Why guy, which actually a funny thing about this movie is I didn't know the son's name, so in most of my I knew everyone's name but his. So in most of my notes, it just says son did this, son did that. Um, but his name is Logan. Yeah, Logan. It
Yeah.
starts off with Logan running, and before you can even see him, the way that he sounds when he runs, it sounds like really weird sex.
Mm. Go into that. I'm curious about that.
Let me
Was it like you think like maybe the Foley art was just like they just had some weird sex noises? Like that'd be
Dude,
funny.
I don't know. I just didn't know how the movie was gonna start, and that's the first thing you hear is just like the. I guess it does sound like him running in the end, but in my opinion, when I first saw that, I was like, "Oh, I don't know. This sounds fishy." But then it was just him running.
And also, what a weird like cliche way to start a horror movie, or even just like a cliche thing to base it around. Like the main character is a runner, so eventually, he's gonna be running away. Like,
Yes. But then when
what a
they get
dumb
to
thing to
that
say. So yeah,
part,
he runs.
it's so terrible. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. He starts it off. He's training for the Olympics, which is something that really wasn't. It was mentioned about three times, but the only thing that happened was them mentioning it. I feel like I wanted to be more involved with his character. Like, why is it his goal to be in the Olympics? And has he been training since he's a little kid, or did he just start now? Like, they never said that.
Yeah, why is Logan so fast?
He's so fast. What did he do? Ran a mile in 5 minutes?
Yeah, 507, dude. That's crazy. I could never do that. At the at,
5:07.
at the peak of my physical fitness, I did not eclipse like 7 minutes probably.
Were you a runner?
No, no, not
No,
I mean
no.
like just like PE,
Yeah,
you
for
know,
me, my peak is
age,
like, I
age
don't
and
know,
shit.
14 minutes.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's peak
yeah,
athleticism right there, man.
yeah. This guy's a
But then the parents are talking in the kitchen after he leaves the room, and he's already this like depressed kid. You could just tell, but you could also tell he
mhm,
loves his dad, right? But from the
mhm,
beginning, Naomi, his mom, is
yep.
kind of a bitch. She goes
Hmm.
straight to him, straight to the husband. Don't know his name. I feel like in this thing, the person's name I knew the most was Martha, which we'll introduce in a minute here. But
I don't know if the dad got a name. I mean, he
he
dies in the first 5 minutes. The crazy part, they like kill him off in the first 5 minutes.
the first 5 minutes. But what I'm saying is when they're in the kitchen and she's like, Well, did you tell him? Which we don't really know what they're talking about in the first place. It seems like he got laid off. I think he's unemployed now. And she's like, I'm looking for work too, so it shouldn't be that hard. But then the son comes back in the room, so they stop talking. But shortly after, they're playing this song in the parking lot. He shows it to his dad, and his dad's basically like, "Yeah, bro, that's fucking sick." And then goes into the to the gas station. They literally did that. He was like, "Right," and then the dad's like, "Yeah, it slaps." And he's like, "Fuck yeah, it does." And then
I feel like coming into this, like the writer directors had like two ideas. They really wanted to work this song into this. Is actually a pretty great song. I was gonna say, if there's one good thing about this movie, the song's pretty cool.
Yeah, the song is cool.
Like, and then also there's the whole like, open houses are kind of weird, huh? The two biggest ideas about this movie.
Hey, open houses, huh? You ever heard? You ever think about that? Open houses. The only person to ever think of how many people get murdered living in an open house.
Man, I would never have open.
I would never have that thought. I don't know. He's just a great directing cut for that, I guess. But
yeah.
He
only the greatest could make a whole movie out of the question, what's the deal with open houses?
But before I say the next thing, actually, I forgot that the foreshadowing that they do with the contact, taking out the contact, you see him like ripping it out of his eye, and it's like way too detailed for no reason. Like, it wasn't even scary. I'm just like, why'd they do that?
Yeah, like I'm always down for some good like body horror, and eventually you get into that when the guy goes after the contacts. But like it's just so weirdly handled. Like why does he really get like in there? I mean, I've never had contacts. It seems like he went really hard on his own eyes there.
He did, and I mean even Ryan, she wears contacts a lot of times, and she was like, "What the hell? Why is it like that?" The way he took it out. But Dad goes in to the store, buys some milk, right? Mm-hmm. He comes back out and gets murdered by that, which is the weirdest way to die too, because it's never explained again. Like, the guy had a heart attack. He runs into the dad and the son.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, was that the same car in the end? Like, does the random murderer, like, did he intentionally murder the father? I couldn't tell if that's what they were going for, because if it was, they did not make that clear at all.
They didn't make it clear, and I have another thought of who the killer was supposed to be, but they never explained it far enough to even to know if it was right or not. But he just dies by this weird car accident. Like, okay, this guy's a heart attack, the driver, but why did he make a right turn and then speed going 95 miles per hour while he's having a heart attack? You think he'd be focusing on himself and not revving his car up?
Yeah, man, just such a, like, that's less than 5 minutes into the movie, and you're already like, wow, that's how they're, okay.
And I think another thing, yeah, so we're 5 minutes in when he dies, and then it just cut right away. Dad went from being employed to dead way too quick.
Yep, snap 2, 1 week later.
He's like gone.
They're behind on all of their bills. They gotta go.
And then Mom is already like right at the beginning. I'm like, oh, I know I'm not gonna like her because she like doesn't really seem affected by it. Like, she's just talking to their one neighbor, and she's just like, oh, or whoever gives them the house.
I think it's her sister.
Okay, her sister. They're just talking. The sister seems more devastated than her. And for the kid, for Logan, I'm like, he's already emotionless 9 minutes in when they're moving to this new house that the sister said to move into. It was like their grandparents or something. I don't know. I forget that part. But they're moving into the house, and he's just on the way there. She's like trying to talk to him. He's like, yeah, life's cool, whatever. Like, it sucks. But
I mean, like, they definitely set up that he's just like this edgelord kid.
And he has no emotions. And I feel like he barely has any dialogue. Like, he definitely talks, but there's only like 2 times where he talks for more than 30 seconds. And I thought
there's a bunch of like really bad lines of dialogue in this movie, and he delivers my favorite one.
Which I know we'll get into. But when the mom when the mom is talking to her sister, my line that she says that I think they could have just done way better at, she just looks at her And she's like, I just can't believe it. He's dead. In that tone. Not like, I just can't believe it. He's dead. She's like, I just can't believe it.
That was like
He's
the first
dead.
take, and they're like, "Yep, we got it."
Like us trying to record our
folks.
trailer.
Yeah, exactly.
If they would have just kept the first one. Well, so, at this point, we're 9 minutes into the movie. The son is dead inside. And then they're in the car not talking. So then to lighten up the mood, she plays the most depressing instrumental I've ever heard. Do you remember this song? It was just some instrumental like you would put on when you're going to like kill yourself or something.
God.
That's very grim, but then, then she turns it off.
Tying it back in with the 13 Reasons Why.
Exactly. I think they might have been trying to make some like, I don't know, similarities there, but dude, she's so pissed. And there's another unexplained things that happens when they're on that ride. They almost hit somebody. Which, is that the killer? Like, I've only watched it once. You've watched it twice. Was that person maybe the killer in the end?
So I think, it's just like yet another way that this is the most boneheaded script I've ever seen. But yeah, so before they even have their open house and the guy comes in to kill them, he's already sort of like supernaturally like stalking them. And he's just like there. And he stands in the middle of the road, and they swerve around him, and then he disappears, like sneaky in the dark.
And
like, why does that happen first, though? It's so strange.
And they move on from things so quick in this movie.
Yeah, like, you would think they would like weigh on the like trauma there, where like her husband was just killed by a car, and she almost killed somebody with her car. But nope, they just move right on. They just keep on chugging.
And the mom has a nosebleed. Yep, and she's just bleeding from her nose, and then she blames on the altitude. So I guess that's sort of explained, but at the same time, like, she never gets another one.
Right, like, why even go there? Like,
there's a lot of things where you... Go ahead.
I think a lot of this is, like, Netflix sort of, like, not so much lazy, but, like, cynical. Like, they just want to make stuff that will look good in a trailer. So have you watched the trailer for this movie? They set it up like it's, like, a supernatural movie.
Oh.
And there's, like, literally zero supernatural stuff. But I'm sure they show, like, her nose is bleeding. You know, the guy's in the middle of the road. He's behind them while he's taking a leak, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. There's just, like, so much weird stuff. Because they wanted it to look like a ghost movie. And it's literally just, like, the only CGI you get is, like, a nosebleed.
A nosebleed. And I find it funny that that's the first typical horror movie thing you see is the man in the road, and you hit him. And she was so concerned, like she didn't want to drive on, like there was no one actually there, but she's like so concerned, like, no, I hit that person. But then they finally,
like, is he dead?
Is he dead? It's like, I don't know. I haven't got out of the car, Mom.
Yeah, we're both here, Mom. Like, what the hell?
And then does she go into a gas station or grocery store or something? Because I wrote down Mom's scared of milk. Because she opens up.
Oh, yeah. That's because the last thing she said to her husband was, don't forget the milk.
Right.
And then he forgets the milk, and that's why he dies. I think that's the message of the movies. Don't forget the milk, or you'll be hit by a car. Just
like how they had Don't Fuck with Cats. They should have called this one Don't Forget the Milk. Because then you're going to get your whole family killed.
Yep. And actually, I was surprised on my second viewing how much foreshadowing there is in the first 5 minutes. I'm like, wow, I'm surprised it wasn't just a randomly strewn about movie.
That is
like,
true.
You get the milk callback, you get the running, you get the car, you get the mysteriously dead husband, and there's all kinds of stuff.
And right in that moment is when we first meet Martha, who is a character I feel like, this is something I wrote literally right after it ended. I wrote, I'm mad at how Martha was never really explained, like, who the fuck it is and what their deal was. Like, we definitely know who it is. Yeah. It's a neighbor.
Martha is the cliche annoying neighbor character. Like, the whole movie, she's like implied to be like a big part of the story, and then in the end, like, you literally see her walk by, and that's it.
Because
like, when he's hiding behind the log at the end, like, she just is out that night. She's not even like the killer or anything. She's just fucking like wandering.
Which is so annoying because I have to tie it back to her again later when we get more down the road. But I we'll talk about it more, but I thought that the killer was going to be her husband.
Right.
Which,
yeah, that's like they're teasing that the whole time. That's like the supernatural thing that doesn't actually pan out at all.
because when we first met Martha, when she first met them, she knew everything about them, because like the person that actually owns the house who's selling it, apparently told her like everything about Logan and Naomi, which is so weird, because like the way she's talking about it all, she's like, yeah, I know your whole life. Like I thought she was gonna say their social security numbers next.
Yeah, dude, I was so sure that when Naomi was on the phone with her sister, like the sister was gonna say something like, "Oh, I don't have a neighbor" or something. They don't even pretend that it's gonna. Oh man!
But they never even call the sister and be like, "Do you know this neighbor?" Like it's never.
Yeah,
they just go on with her being weird.
yeah, like, is the sister in on it? Like, what's going on with this movie?
Well, I don't know, because like at the end, you see him like drive away the killer,
Towards
like drive
the next open house, towards the open house 2.
Oh, I hope they do not make a second one.
In a sort of like sadistic way, I kind of hope that they do.
Well, yeah, then we can review that one as well.
Hey, like which Netflix series star is gonna be an edgy teenager who gets killed in the end?
Yeah, who
I'm
knows?
hoping maybe Millie Bobby Brown, Stranger Things, maybe.
Yeah, the next Netflix star.
Yeah, next big thing.
And the one quote that Martha says when they first meet her that gets me. Even I was like, oh, this actually might not be a terrible movie. She's talking to them. It's like nice to have somebody out here. The quiet can get real loud sometimes.
Ooh.
Yeah, that one was like...
Good one.
That is a scary line right there.
She had another pearl of wisdom in that scene too, which was death. It's like it moves in and never leaves.
Oh, at the end of the... Yeah.
When she meets them? Oh, man. Was like, oh, man, she's really deep.
It moves in and it seems like it... I thought she says that later too. But then you know what? They leave, and Martha's just staring at them as they get into the car. Funny thing about this next scene is that the kid swears, Logan swears, and his mom gets so mad at him. And in my head...
Hey,
language, right? In my head, I'm like, this dude literally just lost his father. Don't tell him not to swear.
Yeah, and you know what? He's right. This house is really fucking big, and it is really weird that they've never been to it.
Exactly. So they get there.
Kind of explain that somehow.
Right when they get in, typical scary phone ring.
Ooh.
Phone rings. They're like, okay. They go pick it up, and it's always the mom picking it up. It's never Logan.
Mm-hmm.
Martha's on the phone.
Uh-oh.
Again, so you think Martha's going to be a bigger character in this movie? You know what I mean?
I think Martha is kind of like filler. I think without Martha, this is a 30-minute really, really shitty short film, and instead it's a 90-minute really shitty feature-length film.
Is Martha the only good character in this movie?
I'm not sure she's a good character, but she definitely takes up a lot of screen time for no reason.
Well, maybe the best actor, because definitely her character doesn't make sense.
Oh yeah, she kind of crossed me as a sort of like a low budget version of like Margot Martindale, like the typical like older lady character who's in like every movie.
But they made her so creepy too.
Yeah. Patricia Bethune.
Is that her name?
Yep, she's won a bunch of daytime Emmys. That's fun for her.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
See,
this is sense that she's. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the knowledge that you bring.
Yeah, she's like a soap opera actor. That makes sense.
Huh.
That sort of fits the whole like this movie had like less than $200,000 to make it.
I've seen another low budget movie that was actually really good though, The Terrifier.
Oh, I love Terrifier. Yeah, that's a great movie.
That is a really good movie. But then once you get home too, one of the first things that happens is the son going downstairs with a flashlight. Of course, here's another stereotypical movie thing that these guys did was no lights in the basement.
Yep.
No lights in the basement. So he's going down there with a flashlight, and of course it looks like a dungeon. What's the first thing he does? Finds an underground passage. And then he keeps walking. He's not even like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go over there. This dude has no fear, and it's mainly what gets him killed in the end. He just can't keep his nose out of anything. He's walking around downstairs, and then he just goes back upstairs like he never even seen it. When he breaks the stair.
It's definitely unexplained, like that this house has this like underground like layer, like tunnel system that like you can't even like understand like the geography of the room because the like camera work is so lazy that you can't tell like what part of the room you're in at any given point. So they're just making this basement look like 10 times bigger than it is by just putting the camera anywhere. Or like, is this supposed to be like some sort of like deep state like lizard people dungeon? Like, it's not explained at all. Like, there's so many different directions this movie could have gone, and instead they just didn't.
No, they didn't at all. And
it's like they forgot. It's like they forgot to write the end of every scene. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, because technically, they're like, oh, check this basement out. A little bit of foreshadowing right there, because there's nothing to do with the basement. Nothing really happens in it except for the one time that he lights the match or puts the flashlight on, and then the guy's behind him or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
the light keeps on getting turned off.
No one actually straight up dies down there.
Correct. Yep.
So there's no point to really show the bath, the downstairs so much. I guess it is scary. Basements are always scary, but I don't know. Dungeon looking.
That's a tried and true, like scary basement. Go downstairs with the candle or the flashlight.
Oh yeah, the matches. I thought that was going to be scarier, but they only ever did one jump scare with it.
Yeah, I think if you're doing like a big house horror movie, you got to burn the house down by the end of the movie, or it's a complete failure.
Dude, horror movies always have bad endings, but this one was. It's just like they never finished the ending, honestly.
Yeah, this one took it a step further and just didn't have an ending.
Yeah, they were just like, well, we'll get to that, but then next thing that happens in the movie is that someone is knocking at the door. But also, let me say something real quick. Not at one time during this movie did I know the actual time of day.
Oh, yeah.
It was always dark. And the one time he's running outside, remember they go for a run, or he goes for a run and the mom goes somewhere else, and it's daytime. They woke up at like 2. They had to be gone by 2. And it's not until the house gets broken into that he stops running, which has to be around 7, 8 o'clock because it's dark out now.
Yeah, this dude's been running for like 6 hours. He ran like a mountain marathon.
In the whole time, just to get his mind off of things. Because I think, didn't he see like a nightmare of his dad in the basement? Yeah. He like had a nightmare that he went down in the basement and seen his dad like bleeding from the mouth.
Yeah, he and mom just had like a big like bust out, so he's like, I'm gonna go for a run, and then like cut to pitch black outside. He's still running.
Well, so this person knocks at the door, at which time I don't know, but that in real life scares the shit out of me. Like people just knocking at my door in general, like it could be 1 p.m. Someone knocks at my door. I'm like, there's not supposed to be anybody knocking at my door.
Like there is no way I'm answering that door.
For him, he's like, let me get up and go answer the door. So he looks into the curtains and he sees that there's this truck outside. You said that's supposed to be the car that rammed into his dad?
No, I don't think so. I think that would make too much sense for this movie.
Right. So
it's gotta be just like random car.
There's random car with its hazards on in the thing, and it beeps at him while he's looking out the window. And he's like, okay. Well, let me go outside after they pull away, which is another thing I would never do. He goes outside, and then that's when Martha's there, freaked out about why they're inside that house. Wasn't that Martha?
Yep. Yeah, Martha just randomly shows up again because it's been 5 minutes since we last saw her.
Exactly.
Bring her back on.
It's another 5 minutes. We need to put Martha in again, but then she's just
gotta get their money's worth.
she's just screaming at him like, "What are you guys doing here?" And they're like, "What do you mean we live here?" And then I don't know why the son isn't just like, "Hey Martha, it's me, Logan. You met us at the store. Like everything's all good." But instead, she just freaks out and then runs away from him like a creature. Did you see the way that she ran?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, she sprints away, and that's when you're thinking like, oh, is she gonna be the villain here? And then there's of
100%.
course like the whole like unresolved question of like where the plumber just like reveals like she got Alzheimer's a few months ago. It's like, oh, okay, so she like has difficulty remembering anything. So that can kind of explain maybe her husband didn't actually die, maybe he just ran away. So like maybe the husband's the killer, but also apparently the killer just randomly selects houses based off of like where they're doing an open house. It's
It's
man.
so bad. The premise is
I
so
think there's
bad.
really no use trying to like decipher any of the motivations in this movie. I think it's just supposed to be like a random killing.
But that's what we're here to do. We're breaking it down. We're
Right.
trying to see if maybe there is a connection. We have to explain this bad movie to people so that
Yeah.
they can understand it. Because I know I walked away not understanding it.
I feel like Charlie in that episode of It's Always Sunny where he's going crazy with the
Bored.
whiteboard and the strings and everything. It's just like I'm going crazy here trying to explain it, and I just man,
And
there's no rhyme or reason here.
then the next scene right away is Ed, the realtor's kid. He's just reaching his hand towards Logan's face and
Yeah.
scares the shit out of Logan waking up. And then, like, they're just like, oh, yeah, you have to leave for the open house. But what was Ed doing in the first place? Even if you saw someone sleeping in a room that you were about to show, why are you putting your hand towards his face?
Yeah, that's a great question, dude. I think it's just another example of how this movie just likes to it wants to tick every possible horror box, and maybe that appears in the trailer too, just like the hand.
Another
Uh,
jump
it,
scare.
yeah, and also this led me to believe that this was some sort of like a cult movie, like sort of like a Hereditary situation where like everybody's in on it.
Yeah,
Sorry for the
right?
spoiler if you haven't seen Hereditary. But like then it like as I was wondering, like, there's no way that these realtors would be this fucking rude unless they're like part of the bad guy situation. Like they do sort of comment on this, and maybe they just wanted it to be like an unexplained thing. But like everybody in the town is extremely rude for no reason, and especially in the end when it turns out they have nothing to do with it, they're just assholes for no reason.
Except for Chris. Now, I'll say when
Right,
we
Chris.
meet
Yeah,
Chris
the love
later,
interest.
right after we see the realtor, and the realtor's being really rude. You got to get out of here, get out of the house. I don't care, get out of the house. You can't be
Yeah,
here.
seriously, leave now.
Right.
Yeah.
So they leave. But there's such ominous music to the open house when it starts. Like
Yep.
nothing's really going on. Then you see this guy walk in with the black boots. This is something that the listeners are going to want to remember. I know you guys have probably watched the movie by now, but if you haven't and you're just listening to this episode, that's the first foreshadow of the killer is these boots.
Yep. The the recurring image of like the big like work boots. So that means that this guy's a bad guy because boots are scary.
Boots are scary. So is Milk. I mean, I know she was.
Boots
I know that was the
they wear
last thing. So then we're in the store again, right? And Chris is hitting on Naomi. That's the first time we see Chris.
Yep.
So Chris is trying to get with Naomi, and Logan was not having it. He's like, "Mom, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, let's stop talking to this guy right now." He broke that up real quick.
Yeah, Logan's like kind of racist, isn't he?
That seemed like a little bit of racism, but
seems to just,
mainly.
He seems to just like randomly hate this dude because he's black and he's hitting on his mom.
But
He just like refuses to speak to him basically for most of the movie.
I was actually with this movie. I was actually expecting him to be like, "My dad just died," and then they run out of the store.
Right. Yeah. Oh man, this movie kind of treats you like you're an idiot too. Like I was gonna complain about that. Like the really over the top use of music anytime anything scary happens. It's just like wow. Okay, in case you couldn't tell, this is supposed to be scary. So you're supposed to be scared right now, right?
There's another scene later where they reiterate that something was supposed to make you feel a certain way. I can't find it right now.
Oh, are you talking about the scene where he goes to pee and they leave like 80% of the screen available, so you just know somebody's gonna walk in, and then that's when the killer walks out of the room, and then
Yeah.
they go, the crazy string score comes in again.
Yes.
That's what I had in mind too. That's probably my favorite scene.
So then they're leaving from the store where they just met Chris, which is another character that comes back a lot in this movie. And then they have a heartfelt conversation, which was again terribly written. And the mom is like, saying like, what was going on in there, basically. And he's like, you were flirting back with him. And she's like, I don't want to talk about this right now. It was just like, that little bullshit conversation that they have. She
Yeah,
feels
I
that she
don't know,
wasn't.
man.
But then they come back and the house is just unlocked.
Spooky.
It's
What's
unlocked.
going on here? Someone break in?
And they're walking up to it. And yeah, they're like, but they don't even ask. They don't even ask each other like, oh, did someone break in? They just walk up. And
I
then
was like, oh, better go in.
the little kid, Ed, runs like fuck out of this house, by the way. He was running faster than Logan could ever run. And the kid is just weird. Logan is just weirded out by the concept of the open house, which is basically explaining the movie. He's like, oh, anybody can just come into our house at any time and that's it? We don't care? And the mom's like, yeah, we don't.
That's when I had the idea that maybe like the writers came in with two ideas that they wanted to work that song in, and then the line which Logan says verbatim. Have you ever thought about how like weird open houses are? I was like, wow, okay. There's the message right there. Open houses are kind of strange.
And to sum up their relationship, the mom is like, oh wow, that kind of makes me not want to sleep tonight. To sum up the relationship, the kid goes, well, maybe you shouldn't, and then walks upstairs.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to talk about the weird like sexual tension between Naomi and Logan?
Yeah, it definitely is weird, huh?
Like, why do we see her like butt crack like 3 times?
Oh, I actually have great thoughts about that. So I think what happened was the actress for that role looked at the script and was like, I get paid how much to basically be showering the whole movie? Because we see her shower with nothing happen about 8 times in this movie. The only thing that ever happens is a jump scare where the cold water gets turned on, and 4 times in a row she has to go downstairs to turn the water back on, and then she later blames that on the son because he loses his phone. Oh my god, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, even after they've like decided that there's definitely something fishy going on, she finds his phone and was like, "Oh, well, he's a little piece of shit. I'm gonna go up and yell at him."
So
that little bat, I knew it all along.
But before we see her in the shower, after they talk about not being able to sleep tonight, the phone rings again, and there's nobody on the other side of the call this time. Like, ooh, I never would have saw that coming in a scary movie.
Yeah, that's like the
and
classic right there.
She nonchalantly says, "Oh, it was just us echoing." She's never scared of anything. Oh, it was just us echoing. What do you mean it was just us echoing? That means the person's in your house.
Oh, I can just hear my own voice at the other end. It must better not investigate. Better not call the police or something.
So then that's where you finally see the mom for the first time in the shower, and for no reason whatsoever, when he's looking for his phone, we get a great shot of the mom's butt for no reason. I don't know why other reasons they would have that in there other than just like, look, it's a butt.
Yeah, it's not even like a sexualized butt, except for the weird sexual energy between the Naomi and Logan. It's just like a butt for no reason, and he's just like poking his head in like, "Hey, mom, I'm gonna borrow your phone." And she's like, "Okay." Oh man!
And are you talking to about how after he hears his mom when he's in the basement, he hears his mom after some like footsteps or something, he hears her scream, and it's because the cold water, and he runs up there and she's still naked, and he busts the door open, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, mom."
Yeah.
And
Why
here's the
does she shower
thing.
so much?
Why does she not put clothes on? She just refuses to put clothes on. She keeps her towel on to go fix the water, and then she comes back up. She doesn't even get back into the shower. She just keeps her towel on. And then they're looking for his phone still with the towel on. Like, you could go change and then look for the phone.
Yeah, and also like it's probably pretty cold in that cellar. Like if he freezes outside, like that's probably a pretty drafty cellar. She's probably freezing when she goes down to relight the pilot every time. Oh man.
So then he's
Ugh.
practicing for the Olympics again. And he gets a 5:30. This is one of the most sad scenes. He gets
Mhm.
he gets
Heartbreaker.
5 minutes and 30 seconds, and he's not. She's like, "That's good," and he's like, "No, it's not, bitch."
He's like, no, it's not, bitch. Were you even? Did you even do it? And I left.
It'd have been great if they just panned at the end of the movie. And little did you know, Dylan had 4 scholarships to be a runner at some college.
Yeah, he was about to go to Stanford, and then this whole thing happened. His Olympic dreams fell through his fingertips.
Because they were really into that concept. Like, oh, he's going to be an Olympic runner. He's the man.
Yeah, they talk about the Olympics 2 or 3 times. So there's like we kind of skipped past this, but there's that whole like useless scene at the diner where the waitress is really rude, and then after that, like they talk about like what he would do if he won the lottery just for no reason, and he's like, I would go to the Olympics and take you.
And the whole conversation was like forced though. Like neither of them will ever want to fucking talk to each other.
Yeah, there's like I don't know what it is. I don't know if Dylan Minnette is a really bad actor or if the dialogue was just terrible, but I felt like every time Logan was in a scene, which was unfortunately most of them, he's just like sucking up all of the energy in the room, and he's just no, I'm so sad.
So
And it
mopey.
just ruins everything.
It does, yeah. Well, then they come home from the diner, I think, right? And Chris is at their
Mhm.
house.
Yep, Chris is there.
So this is the second time we see Chris, and he's like looking into the house, and they're just like, "Hey, what's up? What are you here for?" But then Logan runs into the house because he doesn't want to fucking talk to that guy. He's a little racist kid, and the mom just invites him in.
Yeah, he kind of like invites himself. He's like, at first, like they get home and he's like peeking in through the windows and he's like, "Oh, I know how this must look." And then like 3 minutes later, he's like, "Well, can I just come inside and look around a little bit?" She's like,
I
"Well,
know
I
how
guess so."
I know how this one looks. Probably walks away. Actually, might not know. Can I take a look?
Yeah, like I'm already here. Can I just poke around?
And
She's
they
like, "Yeah, sure, stranger I've met once and hit on me at a department store. Let's go inside."
like, yeah, man, you're not weird at all. Like, I don't think you want to kill me. But then, not only does he come in, she's just like, walk wherever you want. It's all good. Don't worry about it. And he goes in there, and this is another foreshadow. Everyone's away. He goes in there and he goes right towards the basement. And then you don't know if he's there
Makes a
anymore.
beeline for the basement, and there's like so many like implications that the whole town is in on it, including this guy. But then he like turns out to be good. It's just like a whole.
Yeah, his character was creepy, and I thought it was going to be him. And
It's like they don't really tie up anything.
not at all. And I feel like they put so much effort into Chris's character for him to just randomly die inside the car the night when the murders start to happen. There was also no lead up to the murderings.
Yeah, there's like you get the out of focus views of the killer like 2 or 3 times, like the one over his shoulder in the basement, the one while he pees, and then for some strange reason they've somehow convinced Chris he needs to like stay the night at their house to like keep them safe, and he's like about to sleep on the couch, and
This
then
was-
Logan wakes up and Chris is dead outside.
Yeah. But there
Like he was gonna just like split, and somehow he got his like throat slit in his car.
but for
Like, how did he get out there? How'd that happen?
I don't know, and how was not more noise made? But first, the reason why he's there is because there was a breaking and entering. But even before that, I want to say, when Chris comes in that night, they never know if he leaves, and the mom and the son have a conversation about that. They're like, "Oh, like where's Chris at?" Because for some reason, Logan just assumed that he stayed over. I bet he's like, he probably
She goes,
fucked
"Yeah,
my mom.
I guess he left." That's what she said.
She
right?
said, maybe he left, haven't seen him.
Maybe. I
And
haven't
then
seen him.
they're like, okay.
Stranger in my sister's house, and they're like, "Yep, that makes sense. Let's move on. What are we doing next? What are we gonna argue about now?"
They're like, do you want pancakes? Like, no, dude. Where is he then? Because if he
Can
was
we
just
circle back to the stranger in our? What's going?
Nope. But they
God.
they go, like I said earlier, they just love moving on from things. So then they immediately go on to the next thing, which again, I think that's when the nightmare happens where the kid sees it. So then they go for the run. Then the breaking and entering happens. That's when, again, Chris just comes over, and they're like, "Oh, okay." Well, no, because Logan calls Chris when he finds the mom have the number. That's a great sentence. Finds the mom have the number in the room when they're like, because the kid's so scared that he's just gonna stay the night in his mom's room now.
Mm-hmm.
So they find the number, and he calls him over basically to like guard the perimeter, which I don't know what they would be looking for.
Yeah.
They're just going around the perimeter talking, and then Logan ends up apologizing to Chris about like.
And Chris goes, "Don't worry, dude. We're all good."
We're all good, bro. Met a lot of racists in my life. No, I met a lot of people who don't want me to fuck their mom.
Don't worry, dude. I totally get it. I wouldn't want me to fuck my mom either.
What about the mom just finding a camera in her room and just picks up this life of photography now, where she calls herself a photographer out of nowhere?
Yeah. Oh man, we need like 6 more scenes. We gotta add more stuff.
We get that scene where she's in the woods, and I apologize to everybody listening. We are jumping around a lot in this movie, but there's just so much to talk about that we forget and before we move on. But she's in the woods with this camera taking a bunch of photos of nature, probably very shitty shots, by the way. Where she was shooting at was not cool. And then I don't know, they had hot dogs and mac and cheese after the son has a really weird vision in the woods. The camera panning, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And like because there was no follow up to it. Then the door rings late at night.
Say, like our weird, like directionless, like talking about this movie. It's not our fault. It's because the movie is all over the place. It's impossible to talk about it like in a sequence by sequence thing because everything's just all over the place and unresolved at the end.
So that's why
you have to hop all over the place, otherwise you won't be able to talk about all of it.
You do, and then I think this is still after the B&E happens. No, we skipped this part. We forgot that the door rang late at night that one time, and Martha's at the door. Again, I don't know what time it is because you never know what time it is in this movie, but I think maybe it was like 2 a.m. Martha just comes over with a banana bread.
Yep.
Very creepy still. She talks about how her husband's alive when it was dead before, and then later again you hear that the husband's dead.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's sort of explained with the whole like she got Alzheimer's thing, as if that just comes out of nowhere.
That's true.
But still, it's even that sort of like not really like they didn't do their research at all because they were making this like shitty little movie. They can just do whatever they want. But man,
we also get a random boob shot because the mom's in the shower again. And then later is when they're on the run and Martha finds Logan. And then when they're both in the car, she looks at him and it's like it moves in and never goes away, like you said earlier.
Yep.
Then they both... this is the part where I was saying where you said this movie sometimes tries to make things too obvious and they like feel like they have to explain themselves. So after Martha walks away after a really weird scene, the son goes, "Martha's weird, isn't she?"
Yeah.
Like if they didn't know that already.
Yeah, it's like the filmmakers have never heard of like trying to like show instead of telling, and like every single thing, like they can't just have like a little facial expression or like a questioning look. It has to be like, Martha's really weird. Like, yeah, she is really weird.
Because those scenes had to have been written like right by each other. So the
Oh yeah.
playwriter was like, okay, we're gonna write this Martha thing in, and then we're gonna explain that it's weird. then
In case you couldn't, weird. It was weird. Okay.
and then the next scene is when Naomi finds out that the Logan's phone was by the water heater the whole time. So then she blames him for turning off the water, and they're like conversating. He's like, so what are you trying to say then? And she's like, well, I found this in the trash too, and it's like a photo of the family together, and none of that's explained either. I guess the murderer was just messing with them. Then he's like, okay, cool, I got my phone back. And then they get in a fight. Tells him to grow up, pushes him away. Son's like, I fucking hate you. It's your fault. You don't care about Dad. And you know what? I wish it was you and not him.
Yeah, he hits her with the classic. I wish you were the one that died. And you're like, dang.
So cheesy though. They're trying to create emotion, and that's where they go. They just go straight to the 10th. They're like, you know what? I wish you were the one that died instead.
And she tries to, and that's when they try. She says like, Dad left us with nothing. He didn't care about you or me.
How about
like, oh, that's a kind of a maybe he was just like a terrible money man. It doesn't have to be like it's oh man.
How about, because the mom doesn't care. You could tell the whole time that it really just seems like she does not give a shit about the dad dying. Like and then blames it on Logan. Like, oh,
right.
it's your fault.
Like, your dad was actually kind of a piece of shit, as it turns out. So think about that.
So he's supposed to be dead. But then, like, so short after that, maybe you remember since you've seen it twice. I feel like Logan just randomly wakes up and starts asking hello down the stairs. Like, there's no explanation for it.
Yeah, I think there was supposed to be like some weird sound or something, but it didn't seem like it didn't make sense for it to happen. But he hears like a sound and he gets up and he's like, "Hello."
So now
Is there anybody?
he goes downstairs, and then that's when he he hears like a grinding noise down there, but he was just having a nightmare and it was Dad. So let's see. Let's skip ahead here. I just love how everyone was also downplaying the breaking and entering. Like, everybody's just like, oh, yeah, you know what? It was probably just some kids around the neighborhood. They do that from time to time. Like, what? Everyone's like, yeah, just good night.
The cops are like, this is just a classic, like, case of somebody moving to a town and people break into your house and like, you know what? We're never going to catch them, so let's just move on.
And, that guy that's the cop does not look like a cop. He looks like some guy that would be in the Sharks. What's that movie? West Side Story. He looks like a greaser from a high school drama. He does not look like. He's like, hey, you know what? It happens all the time. Okay, you know. He's just like an Italian mobster. It seems like.
Yeah. It feels like he just asked the directors, like, yeah, I want to do something kind of weird with the voice. Is that okay? And they're like, yeah, go for it. And that's what someone he went with. He went with like the sort of like beatnik / greaser, like with the crazy like comb over hairdo and everything. It's like it's very, like you said, it's just he doesn't seem like a cop, especially not a cop in like Colorado ? Like, where does this movie even take place?
I think Colorado.
Colorado, or like maybe Canada or something. Like you just can't tell.
America or just Earth on general, I guess.
USA 2018.
Hey, it's wherever the open houses are, man. But then, right now, we're getting into the thick of it, man. You know, Chris is sleeping over. Everyone forgets about the B&E and goes to sleep. Then we see Logan taking out his contacts again. Another foreshadowing. With the foreshadows there, with the contacts, what ends up happening, as we've already mentioned it, the killer, when he's after, you know, Logan goes outside and finds Chris is laying in there with his neck sliced open, and Logan gets his head bashed into the car, and then water poured onto him. I guess he was supposed to, like, be frozen, which he did a good job of acting that, actually. We'll get to that in a second. I'll ask you how you thought about his like performance after being frozen. But the door is just wide open. He comes downstairs and the truck hazards are on. After trying to put his contacts in, like, or taking them out, and just Chris is laying there dead in the car, and then he gets knocked out.
Boom, and it's a pretty brutal hit too. He leaves like the crack in the SUV, which you see from the inside. Oh yeah, and then and he wakes up frozen, and that's where I was kind of surprised because to this point the movie is like nothing is dealt with like realistically, and you would expect in like a typical horror movie that you would just get like the regular like screaming, running away, slipping in the grass. But he also like he's sort of like realistic goes to the like maybe he has like a concussion or something because he can't like walk right anymore after getting his head banged against the car.
That's what I was saying. That's why I wanted to pause to hear what you were saying about it, because I thought he gave a good performance after that. Like, he did look like he was concussed / frozen. I did believe him there.
Yeah, he never saws. He never.
But
maybe he would like sweat through it.
That's true. But what I was trying to get at before, and I lost train of thought, as you probably like heard verbally happen at the time, I was talking about the contacts. I feel like when the murderer did the contact thing, where he kind of like took it out and he like stabbed his eye a little bit, he should have just like ripped his eye out. Like, I thought it was going to be gorier than that with all the foreshadowing.
Oh yeah, you would. Yeah, there's a little bit of like, it's very like tame like body horror. Like like body horror is where like the movie's trying to make you like feel what the character's feeling with by like something like that, and like it is like I've never had contacts, but I imagine it's fucking freaky for someone to like reach into your eyes and like pull out your like ability to see.
Oh yeah, and then he just tells them to run.
Yeah, I actually thought that was a kind of a cool idea, but like it's just handled so strangely because like, well, I don't know, like do you have glasses? Did you think like the way that they did like the POV a lot was like realistic, like for like how you can see without glasses on?
I like can see well enough without glasses, but yeah, I do think that when you take the glasses off and you're reaching for stuff, you really can't see that well, and everything is blurry like that. So that was pretty realistic in my opinion. But with the scene that we were just talking about, with the Chris just laying in the driveway there, and then Naomi is laying in bed, and the guy joins her in there. I thought that was actually pretty creepy.
Yeah, there's like a 10 or 15 minute span near the end of the movie where it's not a complete piece of shit, but then it's still disappointing at the end, which we can go into. But there's like a 10-minute span where they've got like his acting is okay with like the brain damage, I guess, and then there's the killer reaching into his eyes. That's pretty cool. And then there's like the killer like kind of like sleeping in bed with the wife. That's kind of scary and cool. And then after that, you're just like, oh, it's like they let you down even harder. And that's like, this movie is just like kind of sad to watch. It's like, wow, this could have been like
a good movie,
but it's not even mediocre.
Yeah, so she's sleeping. He gets in the bed with her, and then she gets up to go do something. I think go to the bathroom. She comes back, turns her light on, and starts looking at photos. I thought this was bedtime, like 4 a.m, but I guess not. She just starts looking at these photos, realizes that none of the photos are photos that she took.
Yeah.
And the guy's just chilling there. So then finally she realizes that it's Logan on the ground in a picture, and that the guy next to her is not Logan. So then she screams. He knocks her out, ties her up. And then it just, the movie kind of blends together at that point. Like, Logan is just running up there to kind of try to save her. He sees that she's all fucked up. So then he's like, okay, how about I go downstairs instead, and then the song that his dad died to after listening to it comes on, you know?
Yeah, the song that plays 9 or 10 times in case you can't tell the directors really like it.
And then he's like, you know what? I think my mom's in the basement now. And the phones are disconnected. The cell phone has no signal. One of the craziest parts of the movie actually happens next, where they're in the basement, and then Logan has a knife, and everything's so quiet in there. and then they're inside of like that little like passageway that's in the basement, and then like Logan's mom is like, Logan, turns around, stabs her. I was like, oh shit. Of course he was gonna kill his mom, right? Like,
Twist. He hates his mom the whole time, and he kills her himself. Wow, such imagery.
so then that's where we get the contact scene right after that is when he's running away. The guy pulls it out, basically tells Logan, run, I'll find you anyways, but he never says the find you anyways part. He's just like, run now. So then Logan runs out there, and he just keeps running and running, and it was like pitch black. Next thing you know, it's daytime. Like,
he's completely thawed.
He's completely thawed, and it's daytime out. You can still tell it's kind of cold. He's running. He hears some footsteps coming up. Also, there's no snow anymore. If there was snow last night, there's not snow anymore. I don't know. I guess it must be Denver because I heard snow clears up fast there. But
must have been a hot morning.
He's still having some hypothermia, you know, and he hides. And he's hides from Martha. Martha finally comes back into the movie.
Yeah. Who else to randomly show up in this movie to give it an extra 2 minutes than Martha?
So she's just walking around, and then he gets away from her. Now he's drinking some water, and I shit you not, guys. You guys are going to be like, oh, dude, they're going to dive into so much more right now. No. Logan drinks some water, okay? Logan drinks water, and then he takes a little nap, I guess, but he never falls asleep, and then guess who's right above him? Black Boots, dude.
Guess who's? Scary Boots.
No, we don't get to see how he dies. I feel like we should have seen a murder happen. Next scene is just Logan dead, basically. You could see that he's dead. And now the guy's driving to the next open house. Fuck this movie. They're so hard to review because there's just so much to jump around at. And I hope you guys hated this movie as much as us.
It literally takes like an hour to talk about this movie because you have to like explain all the dumb shit that happens throughout it.
It worked out perfectly.
I'm trying to like wrap it up with some like positive thoughts about the movie, and I'm really struggling to think of more than like two.
Well, we could talk about that now. So we did the review. I agree with you. I think this movie could have been good if they utilized the Martha character in a better way. Like nothing was ever explained with her. I feel like she was a key part to the movie that could have made it a lot better. Like if she was the murderer, that would have been dope.
Yeah, that would have made sense. It's like they've created this like, okay, even if, so what I'm trying to say is like, even if they did correctly use Martha, I think it would still be like a pretty like average movie. But they spend so much time on her and set her up, and in the end, she literally just walks by. Like she's so inconsequential that she just wanders by in the background. You're like, oh, okay, is that the end of Martha? And it is.
Yeah.
And then a few minutes later, main character's dead, and then he just drives off towards Open House 2. And then the worst part is, you never saw the face of the killer. He's a faceless, like is he a golem? Is he a, what's his deal? Like, how did he track him down with no snow to guide him? Like, there's no explanation for anything.
They must have just thought like, oh, no one really gives a shit about the killer.
Like, you know what? They're just watching this shitty movie on Netflix. Let's just put something together for 90 minutes.
We also never see anybody murdered, actually, unless it was motherfucking Logan. If that's his name. I forget his name. Again, I didn't know his name until 40 minutes into the movie. But Logan kills his mom. And that's the only thing you really see, because you don't see Logan die, you don't see Chris die, you just see them dead. Which I thought was bullshit.
I don't think I think the only interesting thing in the movie that actually happens on screen is when he kills his mom. And everything else is either implied or you like sort of hear it, or not even hear it.
It's all word of mouth.
Aftermath, like Chris is dead, Logan's dead. Like you just see them laying there dead, and then you see the killer drive off towards Open House 2.
I think a sequel? I think there's gonna be, because they're gonna have to explain or identify the killer, right? Or they're just like not gonna do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, filmmakers, put your hands up. Give us some reasons right now. Give me some explanation.
But I doubt there's gonna be a second one because they can't bring 13 Reasons Why guy back. So
yeah, they'll need to find someone. They gotta find Millie Bobby Brown or something. Tie it all together.
Well, guys, that is it for our first episode here. I don't know what movie did we say we're gonna do next for next week?
I think we're gonna do Acrimony.
Acrimony. What's the full title of that?
Yeah. Tyler Perry's Acrimony.
Oh, it's a Tyler Perry movie.
It's a Tyler Perry joint, and it's not a comedy. Although it's unintentionally funny. I really look forward to you seeing it. It's amazing.
So it's like a horror movie that ends up being funny?
Yeah. It's more like a horror, like, wow, they really made this.
You know what? You know what's funny is that, have you seen The Outsider yet? It's a show.
What's that?
It's an HBO show. And I feel like if you watch it, they basically, not really, the writing is amazing. It's a really good show. But they took the concept of not knowing who the killer is the whole time and put it into a way better effect on that show than they did in this movie. But you haven't seen it, so you wouldn't know. And I haven't seen the next episode's movie. So, we'll do that this week, and we'll get on here for another one. Thank you guys for listening today. This is This Real? And do you have anything you want to plug in terms of social media or your letterbox? We also have our website, www.sunflowerpods.com, where you can see the shows, and you can see. So we'll have Is This Real up here, and we'll have the daily podcast. Then we have your About Me, where Aaron, your letterbox is actually on there if you haven't seen it.
Oh hell yeah! Check me out, guys. I have a really hard time not liking movies. So if I'm talking about a movie on here, I really hate it.
Which is funny because I seen all of your comments on your movies and things, and I was like, "Ooh, he's gonna come with all these detailed." You didn't end up needing to, but I was just saying he's gonna come with all these detailed notes. I gotta take some detailed notes, and you're like, "No, man, I'm just gonna wing it."
I'm just gonna freeball it, dude.
All right, well. That was the open house. Me and Aaron are going to get back to the rest of our nights, whatever that entails with this quarantine going on, and we'll hit you guys up next week.
See ya.
Bye, guys.